Hello. The near future, there is famine and overpopulation on Earth. It's time to conquer other planets, and people managed to create an ecosystem on Mars with the help of moss and cockroaches. But something went wrong. The insects multiplied too much. The heroes Cockroaches and Nanau have problems with the law and are forced to become interplanetary exterminators, but they do not yet know what they will have to face on the Red Planet. A guy and a girl escape from the chase, but they are surrounded. Together with the police, an extravagant Honda man arrives in a flying car with his assistant Sakikabara. His tasks include organizing the cleaning of Mars from cockroaches. They decide that they have found exactly who they need. The fugitives are sent to Mars as researchers and disinfectants. There are other people in the spaceship with them, including the guy Ding, who offers Saseti sparring. After all, they have been flying for 39 days. The team is assembled from lawbreakers, but there are exceptions. The mission is managed by the captain of the ship Dojima and the pilot Mina Obari. Ding is a desperate underground fighter who says that he has lost everything on Earth. A pessimistic hacker Ichiro is reading a book next to them. Russian thief Maria and her friend, a girl of easy virtue, are experiencing the excessive attention of the pervert Tezuki, a serial killer. In the corner, the terrorist Gokli, hiding under a fur coat, sits silently. A former mariachi policeman and two Yakuza brothers gangsters don't get along with each other. The ship lands and Captain Dojima shows the crew the green planet. Before the mission, all participants were offered to sign an employment contract. Sekachai thought to refuse and choose the death penalty for a certain murder committed by him. However, Nanau as an accomplice was threatened with 10 years and she signed. Then the man did not want to let her go alone and also took up the pen. The captain orders Obara's assistant to launch an umbrella, which splashes out funds from cockroaches. After that, the team will be able to go on an expedition and check the results of the sweep. They also discover the ship of the first expedition, Bucks 1, which was sent 10 years ago. The shuttle is damaged and the director of Honda informs that the tasks of the expedition include its inspection. All this, of course, is only for the benefit of Japan. The captain divides the squad into pairs to explore the area. Sekachai and Nanau leave together. The girl says she signed the contract because she didn't want the guy to be executed. Meanwhile, Tink and Maria notice that there is not a single dead insect anywhere, but they immediately discover huge overgrown cockroaches that walk on two legs. Tink prefers not to disturb the creatures and quickly hides the girl behind a stone. Chiquetti and Nanau also meet one monster and the guy tries to say hello to the Martian as friendly as possible. For some reason, the cockroach leaves the shocked Sekachai alive and runs away. The paralyzed girl is carried to the ship. It turns out that the former police officer Morikia also died from the team. On the ship, the captain says, it turns out that 500 years ago scientists discovered that cockroaches sent to Mars turned out to be particularly living, and eventually evolved into huge monsters, and they will need to be exterminated. Honda joins the conversation with the crew through a hologram. He adds that all participants of the expedition were injected with the DNA of Martian insects. Everyone has an activator that needs to be injected into the blood to mutate briefly and gain the abilities of various insects. Each soldier got his own unique look. The team members are outraged by how much has been hidden from them and offer to urgently fly back from a dangerous planet. But just at this moment a cockroach is approaching the plane. Whether the terrorist is volunteered to eliminate the interference. He turns into a bombardier beetle, which can attack with a boiling jet of acid. In hand-to-hand combat, the cockroach is too strong. Then the Lee use a jet of fire that strikes the insect, but this is not enough. The cockroach withstands the heat, and to the horror of the team watching what is happening, it tears up the enemy. Then he climbs onto the porthole. The captain stops Seketi, who is eager to fight, and turns into a bullet ant, capable of lifting 100 times its weight and injecting a deadly poison into the victim. With one blow, he flattens the cockroach, but there are already thousands of his brethren around the ship, and Obari tries to activate the takeoff. In vain, the ship's systems are blocked. The captain suggests that the team make a march to take off on the ship of the last expedition. He himself will remain to cover the departure of the crew from the hordes of insects. The hacker Ichiro remains with him. There is also no way to take a paralyzed Nanau with you. Leaving, Seketi notices that a thin thread, a spider's web stretches from her nostrils. Cockroaches, meanwhile, begin to fill the ship. Ichiro injects the mutagen, twists and just runs away without any transformation. The rest of the squad climbs into the armored car, and the Tezuka sits on the roof and turns into a beetle that can release a powerful jet of gas. Now the car has jet propulsion. Seketi barely manages to grab the departing armored car before the start. The captain and Ikiru lock up the ship and pump the air out of it to take more insects with them to the next world. Jin asks Seketi about Nanau and Quat. It turns out that he found the girl when she was being beaten by a pimp and stood up for her. After beating the scoundrel, he began to demand that he leave Nanau behind forever, but at that moment she grabbed a knife and stabbed the offender in the back herself. The guy pulled the weapon out of her hands and also stuck it several times into the lifeless body, after which he took the blame on himself. Jin replies that he has nothing left to lose. He couldn't save those he loved, but Sekedi may still have a chance. Suddenly, something like a tsunami appears on the horizon. But this is not an ordinary wave. The jet beetle's ability is enough to break through a wall of insects, but Tezuka is still pretty battered by the collision. And already the second wave is coming, which is even bigger than the first. The girls Osaka and Maria are called to cover Tezuka, armored weevil beetle and rainbow beetle. They bravely withstand the blows, but the car flies out of the wave sideways, hits the ground and tumbles around its axis. The trio sitting on the roof falls, and the car with the wounded squad turns on automatic mode and rushes on. Cockroaches quickly find the girls and deal with them. The same fate overtakes Tezuka. The survivors come to their senses already at the end point of the journey. The ship of the first expedition bucks 1 and quad. All this time, the director's quadcopter is closely watching them. Obari launches the command panel interface, but instead of taking off, the ship only sends some data to Earth. The Yakuza brothers stay outside and are attacked by strangers with firearms. Both are dead before they have time to inject the mutagen, and their fighting cricket abilities remain unused. The rest of the team resorts to the noise, Ding, Obari and Sekedi and quad. They meet cockroaches who have learned how to use automatic machines. Apparently the insects found them on the bucks 1 and quad. The fate of the group is reported to Ko Honda. He picks up the phone and makes a call to a cockroach speaking a human language. The mutant who is watching the ship bucks 2 reports that Captain Tajima is still fighting, but otherwise everything is going according to plan. The trio of survivors uses a mutagen for the first time. Sekedi acquires the abilities of a giant Japanese hornet, one of the deadliest and most poisonous insects on planet Earth. Jin gets a huge leg strength and jumping height of African locusts, and Obari cuts down pests with mantis blades. A talking cockroach penetrates into the ship bucks 2 and starts the flow of oxygen. He praises the dying captain for a brave battle. The emerald cockroach wasp is able to lay larvae in the brain of its enemies in order to be reborn in their body afterward. And until the larva matures, the wasp controls the victim like a puppet. So Mariki finishes off the captain and pours water on the second traitor in Akira. The guy has the abilities of a mosquito larva. In a state of suspended animation, such a larva is practically immortal, and only a little moisture is needed to revive it. The girl explains that she has fulfilled the main mission. She has extracted the cockroach egg that Ko Honda needs. It's time to fly home, and meanwhile Nanao's body is becoming more and more shrouded in a mysterious web. While the traitors are preparing to leave Mars, the heroes fighting at bucks 1 skillfully use their abilities and fight off all cockroaches. The fog of battle dissipates and they discover huge pyramids built by beetles. Suddenly they see their ship, bucks 2, starting in the distance. Ko Hondo communicates with them through a quadricopter. He reveals his plan. He needs mutant eggs to create a whole army of beetles on Earth, and everything except Ichiro and Morika should not go back. And the pyramid is just proof that evolution is inevitable and the development of a cockroach society follows the same path as a human one. On box 2, Ichiro tells Mariki why he ended up on Mars. The boy's mother got sick and couldn't feed his younger brothers and sisters. At work, he was framed and kicked out, so I had to look for quick money. The girl's motivation is different. She wants power and her new cockroach management abilities can help with this. She is already planning to raise the future army of Ko Honda for herself. Suddenly, someone starts hatching from the egg. Mariki is trying to enslave them, but it fails. A new generation of insects has developed immunity. While the ship starts the engines, it is torn to pieces. The shuttle is heading into space, which causes a panic in Ko Honda, who demands Ichiro to stop the flight. Newborn mutants are also not going to fly away and call for help from relatives who happen to have wings. Hordes of cockroaches soar upwards, taking off into the engines and tilting the ship sideways. The Bax 2 is rapidly losing speed and can no longer overcome the force of gravity. Ichiro manages to turn into a larva in time, again avoiding death. The Trinity begins the battle against the new army of Martians, but they manage to successfully repel the attacks only before the arrival of the second-generation cockroaches. Insects with forehead markings move like humans and are much more agile than their ancestors. Jin injects a second dose of mutagen and doubles its capabilities, but the labeled cockroaches are still beyond its strength. Sekedi follows the example of a friend. This way things are going better, but the Jin keeps stabbing the activator to get even more power. He grows wings and continues to crush cockroaches in the air while the hornet is controlled on the ground. Jin is already suffering from side effects, but does not stop and reaches the point of no return. He will never turn back into a human again. With the last jerk, he breaks through the blocks, deals with one of the two cockroaches of the bosses, after which he falls down without strength. Sikiti rushes at the remaining marked cockroach, but he easily breaks his spikes. The hero is one step away from death, when suddenly Nanao flies out from behind the pyramid in the form of a beautiful butterfly. It floods everything with bright light, but it's not just a colorful effect. The butterfly scatters explosive scales that cover the battlefield. Sikiti takes off to save the girl from the explosion. But he doesn't have time. Jin manages to take off and save a friend from death. However, he himself is one step away from the final transformation into an insect. Before his death, Jin asks Seketi to return home in one piece. After all, Nanao gave her life for him. At this time, due to the explosion, a glass of water falls on Ichiro from the table and he comes to life. While he is fighting off the remnants of insects on the ship, Sikiti meets a live, but exhausted cockroach with a tag on the street. Even without the mutagen, the man puts the monster on his shoulder blades, but in the end decides to spare the Martian. On the ship, Sekachai meets Ichiro and rushes at the scoundrel despite the gun in his hands. Shots are fired, but Sakati is not wounded. Ichiro killed another cockroach that had crept up from behind. There are just 2 places in the escape pod. The heroes take off, but their escape is watched by the newly assembled cockroach hordes. The Martians unclose their wings to rush across, but they are stopped by the very cockroach that Seketi left alive. The 2 surviving humans are leaving Mars. Classified information obtained by the expedition is freely available on the internet. This is Ichiro's handiwork. The mission of the director of the Honda has failed, but he is ready for it. His plan B is to hide and trade Japan's classified information with other countries. The assistant of Sakikabara accuses him of betrayal and shoots at the boss, but even here Honda is one step ahead. The bullet misses its target, and the girl falls dead from the wasp's venom. The heroes return to Earth to bury their dead friends, but this is not the only thing in Sikiti's plans. The time will come and he will return to the Red Planet once again. As always, look for the name of the movie in the description of the video. Write in the comments if you were destined to be on this expedition. Which insect would you choose? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so that cool stories come out as often as possible.